Coming up after the break, does your computer password involve the numbers 1 through 6? If you haven't already reconsidered it, soon you might have to. The Roundup is next. Microsoft says it's getting 10 million hits a day from hackers trying to break into accounts. And it's had enough. It's going to make you use a better password whether you like it or not. That story kicks off the Roundup. Nicole Verkindt is the founder and president of OMX. You're not going to tell me your password, but have you ever had one of the passwords on this list? You're probably too smart to have ever done that.
Not one of these, but I am guilty as charged. And I know our software is so focused on high security. We sell mostly aerospace and defense contractors. So my CTO from day one would not let me get away with, the name of my dog, 123. So
how often do you change your password?
Oh, I use LastPass, which automatically will change the passwords and make these really randomized passwords that are impossible to get into. But it's unbelievable how much people are investing and how much all these companies are investing in the infrastructure, cyber infrastructure, right? They're making it extremely complicated. And the concept of putting a bad password is like just handing them keys to your front door, just letting them right in the front door.
Look at these ones, though. Like literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is still being used by people. Password is still being used by people. Football, okay, I suppose. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's even worse than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The things people do, it is astounding. One of my friends now, on everything that you can, that he only has to sort of sign in on every week or so, he doesn't get a new password at all. He doesn't have a password. He just sort of hits forget password. They send you a random thing to sign in. He signs in with gibberish and then forgets it altogether. So he doesn't have to remember any passwords ever. He just goes through the process to have the new password sent to him, and he claims that's safe. I'm not entirely sure it's a good plan, but he claims it works.
Well, it's safer than having a Post-it note or having something that's that easy, right?
Yeah, or a computer file on your hard drive that once people break in, they can get all your passwords to your bag. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, Microsoft as well is getting accused of dirty tricks with this upgrade to Windows 10. Are you a Microsoft user?
No.
Probably on one of your computers you must be. You've got like 15.
I try to avoid it whenever possible. I use Google Docs instead.
The issue here is that they've been trying to get people to upgrade. They want like 1 billion upgrades to this Windows 10 in the next 2 to 3 years. And now instead of clicking on the notification to say, yeah, I don't want to do that right now, if you clicked on that, it would automatically begin the upgrade. And people went nuts.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was dirty. I saw what it looked like, and I would click X, and Microsoft 10 takes up a lot more space. Some people don't want to change features that they're used to, but I can sort of see both sides of this story. If you're Microsoft, you don't want to keep tons of versions and maintain them and service them, and Microsoft 8 really sucked, and so they want people on 10.
And they had people that were on, like, Microsoft, I think, 7. Like, you have people that are on the most ancient stuff and still expect to get, service and maintenance to their apps.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. The other thing that makes me crazy about this is it's almost as though people don't know how to use computers still. That, yes, you need the most up-to-date stuff, and then they get upset that they've lost something along the way. Well, back up your hard drive regularly, not just when you're, doing an upgrade or something. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a dirty trick, though.
It was, and we shouldn't take away from it.
What this brought it back to me was sort of the culture within Microsoft, and they've always been accused of antitrust and really being the monopolistic company. But it felt very dirty, and it did it overnight. It's not even like you click the X and then you saw it. Yeah, they fixed it, but still.
It put in another notification.
It says so much about the way they operate just to get more downloads. I didn't like it.
Do you think they, as a company, have learned from this, or is this just so...
I would hope
they put out a fire and then move on?
But I mean, all the new tech companies, and the most important thing they're all pushing is trust.
Yeah.
And they're all relying on that, and they're proactively going into new markets, and we've seen them do that to try to gain more trust from their users. And Microsoft, I think they need a whole culture change.
And I mean, it's interesting, this is so off topic, but it's interesting that they dominated the PC game. They sort of lost out in the mobile stuff, and now they're trying to figure out sort of what's next. This has to put a dent in their, people hate them now.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen so many different attempts, or we all have over the years, of Microsoft trying to, they tried to buy Yahoo at one time. They're trying to find their next thing. We'll see.
Speaking of the next thing, Bell's next thing is paying $11.8 million to the Competition Bureau, through the Competition Bureau, to people who were charged for. Remember the story that it was premium text, so you get the joke of the day. You sign up.
I remember getting them by accident, and of course I never noticed because I don't read my bill.
Yeah, and so finally, I mean, this went on for years. They agreed back in 2005 to pay people. Now they're finally going to kick up some money and another $800,000 to some kind of a public interest advocacy group. Is this did this take too long, and is it enough of a fine to stop companies from doing stuff like this?
Of course it took too long. Hopefully it says something. I'm glad the government came in, and because for a class action lawsuit, it would be difficult to do this. So.
But I mean, it must be so tempting for wireless companies, for companies in general, they see this possibility. You can just send it to them; they'll pay us money without even really knowing it. It'll be pennies each. Nobody will notice. We can make all kinds of money off that. Yet this was one of those things. If you think the Windows 10 upgrade made people angry, this made people insane. Yeah,
this is worse because Bell didn't even do any work, right? They just had a referral
and they were often the third party. Yeah. Okay, this idea that the sugar, the FDA in the United States has this new nutrition facts label that is requiring people to separate out added sugar from total sugar. So I guess we're looking at this at like high fructose syrup and that kind of stuff. Would this kind of thing happen here in Canada? Does this matter?
Well, it absolutely matters, and I hope it does happen in Canada. I really think sugar will be the tobacco of the future. This story caused me. I'm a sugar addict, okay?
Okay, I am too, so I
admit it. I'm trying to get off of it, but this story actually forced me to read what happens to your blood after it receives these added sugars, and it really is addictive, and I think it has huge health effects. And, look at one can of Pepsi. With this new labeling, it's going to actually tell people and translate it to real person speak to say, no, that's 138% of the total sugar you can have today. And so I think it's important that people have that education.
You're supposed to have 6 teaspoons of sugar a day, including that would be.
That's the recommended amount you can have. I don't really think you're supposed to have added sugars at all.
You're not supposed to have any. Why is it that we in North America are so terrible? I've lived in Europe. You've lived overseas as well. They aren't nearly as addicted to sugar as we are. Is it a cultural thing? Is it just a diet thing? Is it the way we sell stuff? Why are we so bad about this?
It's interesting. I think it is a cultural thing. I think you're seeing people come to Canada, even immigrate to Canada. Yeah. I saw a study that there's a huge issue with that. They come in here, there's a huge cultural change, and has an immediate impact on them.
All right, well, we'll have to follow this and see if anything actually comes of it. But it will be interesting to see if this ruling comes to Canada.
And I think we'll see, even if the ruling doesn't come, I think we will see the labels in Canada because of so much cross-border trade. They're going to change everything.
Yeah, good point. Cool. Always glad to see you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Peter.
Coming up after the break, a wake-up call for our wired world. A new study has found a link between cell phones and cancer. North American markets were higher today.